Welcome along, my aspiring allies, and thank you for joining me on this most recent episode of the Speaking of Inclusion podcast. This is the show where we take tricky, taboo, or often overlooked topics and we get right into it because we don't shy away from the difficult discussions. So today I am joined by Dr. Tom Ingegno, and he is a best-selling author, clinician, and speaker with nearly 25 years in integrative medicine. Now, he runs Charm City Integrative Healthcare in Baltimore, and he has been featured in national news outlets like WebMD and Forbes. Now, his work blends East Asian therapies with more modern wellness practices, and he is known for making the most complex health concepts practical and accessible. And that is exactly what we got into talking about today. So we have also touched on the interconnected topics of not only around health, but also around politics and our sociology and social lives. So we really have had a look at all of the ways in which being human shows up for all of us and how that impacts us and the way we experience life, work, and everything. Now, Tom is a podcast host himself. He co-hosts a show called Irreverent Health. And they really do also have these conversations around smarter and science-informed healing. And this is something he wanted to bring over to us at Speaking of Inclusion, and I am here for it. So, you know the drill. Without further ado, please sit back, relax, and get comfortable in whichever way works best for you. And please welcome Dr. Tom Ingegno to the Speaking of Inclusion podcast.
I would love social media, except maybe for Reddit to go away altogether, because I think it's and then even China, I don't know if you saw this, they unless you're an expert in something with degrees, you can't talk about it on social media.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are screaming, "Oh, that's censorship." And I'm like, yeah, but like yeah, but like maybe there's shit you shouldn't be talking about if
Well,
virology, vaccine safety, dude, you barely
yeah,
made it through high school. Yeah,
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 quite, drink bleach, that'll fix it. Or not, or not.
Well, and then to hear Daniel Tolson is in Taiwan, and I'm working with him, and I just got certified for his bioacoustic technology, and I've been using it. God, I think he said 240 days now, and I've done 3 sessions where you record your voice, and based on big data, good news, bad news, who knows, from Alexa's voice devices, they can tell what frequencies are missing in your voice, which ones are too strong, and tell you where you're out of balance. And they've pegged it to physiological conditions. And part of the thing is to talk, you're using about 100 different muscles. You're involving your vagus nerve, all of these crazy
Yeah.
things. And like one thing he told me, which is kind of funny, because I said, oh, for our podcast we should do this thing called Irreverent, for our podcast called Irreverent Health, why don't we have this protocol called uh live longer, fuck harder? Right. And I go, it's on the nose, it's crass, but it's kind of where we're at. And he goes, I love
It
it.
appeals to an audience.
Well, yeah, and it's an audience that looks like me, right? They're interested in healthcare. They want to take care of themselves. They don't want to look like what's happening to their parents. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and he goes, every man with erectile dysfunction doesn't have F and F sharp in their voice. The two notes. And I
Ironic that
go,
it's
wow,
F as
that's
well.
crazy. And he goes, yeah, we like, you can see it on the readouts, right? And he makes these specific protocol printouts, right? So he showed me 2 of mine, but depending on how deep you go, he has a 50-page one. So he's talking about chakras, he's talking about your enneagrams, and the basic one he read live on our show for both me and Matt. I was like, oh, this is like the Amazing Randy, where he hands everybody the same description of themselves and tell them it was a customized astrology prediction, and then they read theirs and they go, oh, this is definitely
It's
me.
me.
But Matt and I were drastically different in the reports, and dead on, to the point where when he did mine, Matt looked at me and he goes, dude, I've known you for about 5 years now. He had you read in 90 seconds. He did Matt's, and I'm like, wow, that was so accurate, because it even stuff that we weren't talking about on the show, personal stuff. Like, he didn't get into like, oh, this
Yeah.
is the issue, but he could tell emotional levels. He could tell sleep
Wow.
levels, these kind of things. So I kind of fell in love with it, because to me, vibration, frequency, energy, it's all the same thing as East Asian medicine. I feel like I'm just rambling now, but we just had him on the show again last night with a guy who had this massive brain tumor and was not supposed to be here, and he's using the technology, and is well, he underwent a ton of chemotherapy and radiation that they thought was going to probably kill him too.
Mm.
um but all the side effects from the chemo and the radiation now are what he's dealing with. And
Wow.
he's using the frequencies, and he goes, look, in 4 days, I could walk around again. I could go outside without sunglasses on. I didn't have to wear earplugs, because all the sensations were amplified. Which is super amazing. His story is so impressive. But I'm starting to see this deeper and deeper level, this more subtle thing that than even like acupuncture. I used to teeter between everything has to be real, uh, you know, left brain analytical. I want to study, and oh my God, it's all energy, and let's just go with this flow, and this very like
Yeah.
crunchy new agey thing. And now, given the field of quantum physics kind of coming around, and look, oh, the power of intention. Yeah, you don't have to say it like that, but here's the quantum principles behind it, and you go, wow, it's actually it's more like that than I thought it was, and
Mm.
it's such cool stuff. Sorry, I'm rambling now.
No, I love it. And that, well, I mean, it's what we're here to talk about, right? This is the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
point.
yeah.
This is where we've just cracked it out wide open immediately, which I love, love, love. And it's interesting in hearing all of this, because obviously, like, talking about the people that need to be the expert, you are clearly the expert in this. So you get to talk about it on Chinese Twitter if you want to. So congratulations.
if you're not on Red Note, it is actually probably, no, actually, the most positive social media platform I've seen.
Red
Now,
note.
Red Note, and in a little commie nod, we call it Red Note in the West. It is Xiao Hongzhu, which is Little Red Book, which is immediately a reference to Mao.
Okay,
but
yeah.
but it's what social media used to be, where like, oh, here's a bunch of people dancing or performing a
Right.
skill, or here's how you learn something. Which my TikTok algorithm really was for a while.
Mm,
And then all the nonsense happened here, where we're like, oh, we're not going to allow it, or he's got to sell
yeah.
it. And it's like, that was all staged,
Yeah.
anger. But a lot of the Chinese are like asking people from the US, and I'm trying to say people from the US rather than Americans, because I understand it's this whole hemisphere. Um, but within that, like, wait a minute, if you get sick and you go to the hospital and you don't have insurance, what happens? Well, if you can't pay, they turn you away. Well, won't you die?
Yes.
Yes. And they go, we thought that was Chinese government propaganda. And we're like, no, no, you die in a
Because when you
gutter.
say it like that, right, it sounds inhumane
Yeah, it's
because
a
it's
hundred percent
inhumane.
inhumane.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but then they're like, wait a minute. So if you can't work and you lose your job, what happens to your house? Oh, they take that back.
But then what
we
happens to
thought
you?
we
Yeah.
thought the government was lying to us about that too. So immediately Westerners are like, what the hell happens to you? And they're like, well, the government has your mortgage. So they just say don't pay. And then they give you money for food. And
Yeah.
we're like,
They're a fan of you not dying.
yeah, like so this is the weird thing where like we're even voting here, like socialism is a bad thing. And like all aspects of it, right? And certainly every government system is going to be inherently flawed because people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
People,
but
decisions, opposing parties.
yeah, it's the ones that have the cross around their neck. It's the ones that have the Bible verses in their bios that are the most horrible people.
Yeah.
And
I am going to
it,
do that awful thing now because
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
no,
Please,
no, no,
I
no,
know
no,
we're
no,
rambling, or
because
you got to go.
yeah, because I acknowledge certainly in the States currently that statement tracks. I am also gonna go with on the face of not I feel like I'm doing like a hashtag not all men, but also I also see a lot
It's
of
not 100.
benefit
Yeah, yeah.
in religious and spiritual leanings and people that come together under community, and I don't want to shit all over
No, no. It
of that.
seems to be, and I 100% agree with you. Where I see it most beneficial here in the States, Black communities and Black
Yes,
churches really
yes,
go out of their way to take care of their congregation. They go out of the way to take care of the community.
yeah,
And I'll God, this is gonna be controversial, especially with you in the UK. Muslim cultures.
totally, yeah.
Mosques go out of their way. Even after 9/11, they were donating, they were fundraising, they
Oh,
were
yes.
10 times what evangelical Christians here were doing.
No, I agree with you from what I understand as well. I mean, I my experience and understanding of anybody that I have come into contact with who
Mm,
practices any form of Islam to whichever depth or degree they do, fundamental principles rooted in kindness and community.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, we could go on all day about this, but
yeah,
that's not what,
yeah.
what you want me here for.
This is what we're here for, but we are going to time cap it. But
Okay.
also, right. But these are the conversations that are so important. This is why we have to have this chat because, and this is why bringing in your perspective and your kind of
Mm,
understandings of traditional medicine and its, the roots of East Asian medicine specifically,
hmm
um,
hmm
when we know a lot of what we're in the Western world starting to get more familiar with now has been
Yeah.
kicking about for a very long time, and we are very late to the party. And
hmm
I think that's why it's really important to have these conversations because everything is connected, isn't it? Really, like
hmm
the state of our society is connected to the state of our
Mm,
healthcare systems, which is
yeah.
connected to the state of our citizenship and our capacity to function with each other as humans.
hmm
And, and actually, as you've already touched on there is something in when we're not in competition to have our basic needs met, the landscape looks really differently. And a lot of that I think comes out of our attitudes and the rigidity of our attitudes, um, to not really go back to our roots, to go back to, how as humans did we exist before we were so wedded
Yeah.
to science and stuff, like we thought all of this stuff was new when essentially nothing is new, like everything
Nothing
is
is
just
new.
reinvented.
No.
So yeah, I want to hear from you about your journey and your discovery of
Sure,
this,
sure,
and to
sure,
help
sure.
crack that open a bit for people to understand a bit more. Because we know how you feel, we probably know how you vote, but we'd love to know your story.
I'm at the point now where I'm like, yeah, voting, if voting worked.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be allowed to do that either. But no, I'm still voting for the lesser evil. And
Yeah. I mean, even in the here, yeah, I'll pitch my tent as well, because even here in the UK, everything's going sliding to the right. Although, I am going to pin my flag in that I have very recently joined the Green Party here in the UK because we have a
okay.
guy called Zach Polanski that is stepping up, and he's certainly as someone, and I've actually got a post coming out soon about leadership lessons from him, because he is certainly someone who's unafraid to speak his truth, share his perspective,
Yeah,
and stand 10 toes down on the things he believes in. And I feel
that's
like
great.
it's at least the things he believes in are different to everybody else who's standing 10 toes down on their stuff. So,
yeah.
but let's bring it back to you. So
Yeah, let's go.
let's hear about you. Tell me, how
Are
did
we
you arrive at where you
recording?
arrived
Did
at?
we hit
We are
record already?
recording.
Wow.
All of
Oh my
this is going
God.
in,
Yes, great.
if that's okay with you.
Look, you know what? If somebody in the UK is going to listen to this and want to fly over and fight me, you guys don't have guns.
No, that's true. We wouldn't know what to do with it. We'd shoot ourselves more likely. We'll just
We shoot ourselves too.
That's true. We're more
Normally
likely
it's
to
a
throw a witty
toddler in our
insult
family
your
that
way.
does it. I'm okay with that. I've had plenty of that happen. So it was funny. There's that song Little Boxes, right? And it's like, doctors and lawyers and business executives, right? So I am third generation Italian American. And yes, I have a German side too, but I was raised on the Italian side of the family. And growing up, we were living in a household with my great grandmother, my grandparents, and my parents. My grandfather had been a pharmacist, and he did some amazing financial moves back before there was just giant big banks. He ended up on the board of a small local bank, which was then swallowed up by a bigger bank and then swallowed up by Bank of America. And we have no association with them anymore. But my grandfather was a pharmacist. And, there was this idea that if you were remotely intelligent, you were going to be a doctor or a lawyer or go into business. And that's what the bulk majority of the generation after my great grandmother that had migrated over went into, right? So, hey, you want to help people, you're going to be a doctor. And that's what I was kind of on track for. My junior year of high school, no, was it junior? Yeah, it was my junior year of high school. That summer, my grandfather dropped dead of a heart attack. He said he wanted to die with his lab coat on as a pharmacist, and he did. And that was probably one of the biggest shocks that had happened to me up until that point. I had blocked out a lot of things that had happened, but I used to help him in the pharmacy. Now I go away to college. I'm pre-med. I'm in a bio program that was really tough. In fact, there was a T-shirt going around that said, "You might be a student at this college if you used to be a pre-med." um, so they were really trying to weed people out. So when you got to apply to med school, only the ones that they were pretty sure would get in would do that. So I was catching my lumps, and I'm gonna say this, and if my wife hears this, she's gonna be a little disappointed. There was a girl I was kind of interested in, and we were at a party, and she was also pre-med, and I went back to her room with her, and I'm rubbing her shoulders, and we're talking, and she goes, "So why are you doing this?" And immediately something I'd blocked out from my younger days where I was at my grandfather's pharmacy, and he was counting out pills to put in a bottle for a patient. And the migrant worker he was doing it for literally was one of those people that gets on the back of a truck, and hopefully at the end of the day they hand him cash, and that's how he supports his family. And he looks at me, and this is 90, 92, 93, maybe 94 at the latest, because I think that's when he died. And he goes, he's got to take 3 of these a day. They're $5 a piece. And this was something that he was going to be on long term, maybe his whole life. And he goes, that's $15, and I'm doing the math, $15 a day times this. He goes, do you know how much that impacts his family? And then he looked at me and he said, there's got to be a better way, and I'm hoping you find it. And it's so weird. I can smell the pharmacy when I tell that story. I can tell you what shoes he was wearing. Yeah, but I blocked it out because his death was pretty impactful for me. But that all came back to me while I'm rubbing this girl's shoulders. And I told her the story, and she's crying. So I go, I guess I'm gonna show myself out, and I just laughed. I was like, that's it. This isn't going anywhere. Ruin that mood.
Dead.
But it kind of put this unknown spark in me that, like, I got to look for something else. there was so many little serendipitous events that kind of happened before I got to acupuncture school. And the next thing was I came home for Christmas break, and my mom used to do this auction at you guys call it secondary school for high school.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can translate. Look at that.
Brilliant.
But she would get donations from all the stores in the surrounding areas, and she'd put together baskets with a whole bunch of the parent teacher association members, and they'd auction them off and raffle them. So I go downstairs for Christmas break, and there is a laundry basket just overflowing with books. Right on the top was a book called Opening the Dragon's Gate: The Making of a Modern Taoist Master. And it was a biography written from the a Chinese author translated into English. And it just so happened to be the only one that was sitting up straight in the middle of the basket right on top. And I go, "Hey, mom, can I borrow this book?" And she goes, "Honey, we get so much crap, they're not even going to know whether or not it's there." So she goes, "Just take it." So I took it and I read it at school. And there were these fantastic tales of internal cultivation, Qigong, meditation, larger than life kind of practices. And whether or not they really happened, or perhaps they happened in the Taoist's mind. I don't know. I think there's a lot, if your brain thinks it happened, if your brain actually
Mhm.
believes it happened versus did it happen out here in the physical world. But stories of one of the people that was mentoring him, one of the older Taoists, treating somebody's shadow with acupuncture, putting a needle into the shadow of somebody, uh, going to a town that was afflicted by some big infectious disease, gathering them all into one big building and putting a needle into the ground, and everybody starting to vomit up whatever this toxin was, right? And fantastic stories. Once again, no idea whether or not they're true. And this is relatively modern. This is probably in the
Mhm.
40s, 50s, 60s sometime. But it was just kind of rolling around in the back of my head. My junior year of college, and I'm sorry this is such a long story.
No,
Um,
I'm
my
invested. Carry on.
my junior year of college, I got a postcard in the mail between the intersessions for an acupuncture school, and it was just an open house. And I went to the acupuncture school and did the open house, and I'm talking to them. I'm like, "Well, I don't have my undergraduate yet." And they're like, "Well, you have all these AP credits, you have advanced placement credits from high school, you have enough credits to get an associate's degree. There's no undergraduate for East Asian medicine. So our master's degree program's 3.5 years. You're coming out with a bachelor's in professional health science, as well as, and we don't use Oriental medicine as a term as much anymore, but a master's in Oriental medicine. And that's all you need to practice." So I came home, filled out the application, went to turn it in before I even told my parents. My parents were like, "Look, we'll support it, but we want you to have an accredited bachelor's." They didn't think the program was
Yeah.
accredited. So my second semester junior year, I had started my master's program while still doing junior year, carrying 32 credits, bartending, and loving every minute of it. I fell into it. It made sense. It felt right. The classical principles were not linear, which when you're ADHD, that's kind of nice, right? I can start
Mhm.
here and end up over there. I can start here and end up over there. It doesn't matter. Like as long as I can follow a logical trail, I can get to where I need to be.
Mhm.
And you would watch people break in that program mentally. Like, it's like either you're going to accept this or it's going to destroy
Yeah.
you. And it wasn't that the concepts were hard. It was just that letting go of this very A plus B equals C kind of mentality. Um, and I didn't look back once I convinced my parents at the end of that first semester that, look, here's the bachelor's I'm getting. I
Yeah.
skipped my senior year. The other thing I kind of loved about it was at the time, the program was written as a career change for people.
Okay.
So the average age of a student was 35. I might have just turned 21 when I started the program. And I was in there with a bunch of people my parents' age.
Mm.
And it was very nice because I had their perspective. I had their wisdom as well as my teachers and
Yeah.
everybody. And I literally had a mom from every nation in the program, which was kind of nice too. And it just opened these doors for me. And I had no idea coming out at 24 that I'd be here 25 years later, uh, having had the experience I've had. And not all of it's easy. Running a small business is rough. I don't have particularly the head for it, and I think partially I survived and grew out of spite. uh, um but I keep a running CV, and it's not for anybody else. It's really just to show this is going to go on it, certainly. But it's just to show me how far I've come, because I forget that. I don't really celebrate my wins as much as I think I should.
Mm.
And it's like, what's next? Because I don't think that was big enough. Yeah, but that's my own ego getting in my way.
I mean, is it ego, or is it, is
I
it
don't know.
growth? Like,
I wrestle with that too. I had a former employee, Megan, who was just absolutely an amazing human being, and she went on to such good things. So I'm so, yeah, like when I lose an employee and like things are better for them,
yeah.
I feel like just happy to see that. And I forgot what I did. And she goes, "Are you gonna at least take a moment to acknowledge that you just accomplished something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but now I can do this other stuff." And she goes, "No, no, just you never
Sit
do that. I've watched you for like a year, and you keep knocking out these goals." And I'm like, "No, no, this isn't the goal. Where the goal's over there." She goes, "Well, last week that was the goal." And look, what's the goal? I'm not sure.
Mm.
But it's further down the road, you know.
Yeah. And I think, and you already alluded to this yourself, but also I kind of I'm feeling the urge to go, and also ADHD, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like things are happening, but your brain is already on chess move way ahead. Like other
Yeah,
things
and
are
and
happening.
sometimes the hard thing is to talk to other people even when they're ADHD, because it has so many different flavors that it's like, no, this is very straightforward in my head.
Yeah.
They're like,
This all makes
you
complete
just
sense to me.
that doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing over here, but it does. It has everything to do. I'm doing this so I can get to that. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, why not just go that way? That's not how it works.
That's not my way. Yeah. I really, yes. And thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really important that the more I speak to people on this podcast, the more
Mm,
I'm learning that the majority of people um find their place through kind of experience, and we start on a path of the path that we are told to follow, or that we think we should be following, and things happen along the way that the kind of like the magpie twinkle that we get, and it's like
hmm
oh, hang
hmm
on, that might be my thing, I'm going to go and look at that over there.
Yeah.
And it's and call it a calling, call it whatever you will, but we all seem to have things that um present to us, and
hmm
we can choose to get curious and follow them or not. And a lot of the people that I love speaking to, it's the curious kind who are like, yeah, okay, but what is that thing over there, because it keeps glinting at me and I need to know.
I don't know if magpie twinkle is common vernacular in the UK, but I'm totally using that. I love that, and I think that sums it up. On our podcast, Matt found this quote, um, because it's called the Reverent Health. And part of the quote is, being irreverently curious, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that I need to be an expert in everything. It's not that I need to know everything, but I want to be curious about it. Like what's under that rock? Okay, yeah, maybe it's a bad time, but maybe it's something that we could
Yeah.
all actually benefit from.
Yeah. Or maybe it's nothing, and that's fine. I can
Maybe,
put the rock
yeah,
back down again. All good. Yeah.
yeah.
No, same. And yeah, Curiosity Magpie is one of my the names that I call myself, and my brain is like, I get
Mm,
shiny object syndrome, but for learning and knowing and just questions, always questions. So I yeah, and I see that in the people that I speak to, and that we've um acknowledged there is some sort of traditional path hanging out around us, but it may not be for us, and it is
No,
okay.
and I
Yeah.
think I think as generations move on, and I think the Gen X generation was probably the first to start this, and I'm seeing that a lot more with my kids. I'm seeing it a lot more with, millennials and the Gen Zs and the alphas, where it's like, yeah, they look like they're all over the place, but like leave them alone. There's a process going on.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's a pain in the ass, and sometimes you want to knock them out. But certainly they'll come around. They'll figure it out. They'll find their own way. And just because it's not go to school, get the 9 to 5, and work till you die, doesn't mean it's bad. And some of the people I'm looking up to now, of course, there's the older acupuncture practitioners. There's still some of them kicking around in their 80s and 90s that are just one of these things is like you're constantly going, I'll never have that skill, right? Like I'll never get to their level. And you just keep going, right? And then hopefully, when you get to that age, somebody's saying
Yeah.
that about you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. When you've got 80 years worth of experience, you might be knocking on the door.
but somebody else that made a product I absolutely use every day and love, when we had him on the show, uh I'm like, you gotta be my guru, man, because there, like, no one showed up at career day and said you could do that, right? Like that wasn't
Yeah.
that was not on the option, right? like an option on the menu. And I even reached out to him once where I'm like, dude, I'm having like this dark night of the soul. I don't know why. I think you got some advice for me. Told him what was going on. And he goes, yeah, you're about 50, right? And I went, getting there. Yeah, pretty close. And he goes, yeah, so second half of your life isn't about, chasing skirts and, checking off, look, got married, had kids, all that stuff. It's about like, what are you leaving behind? And that really shook me to the core. And I think so much so that like I'm re-examining even like, well, is clinic all of it for me? I love clinic. I said that at the beginning, um but what else can I do? How can I share the message of what are the core principles of traditional therapies, not even just East Asian medicine? How is it all unified? How do we get to a point where the traditional stuff intertwines with the modern and doesn't detract from either, and at the same time acknowledges the roots of where those things came from? My mentor always used to speak in a lot of analogies and stories and things like that, and quick little phrases. And one of my favorite ones from China is, when drinking water, remember the source. Four characters in Chinese, but so impactful, so meaningful, right? It's not that I can't, as a straight white male, practice Chinese medicine, but I need to acknowledge where it came from. And I
Yep.
need to go back as far as I can, and I need to represent it in a way that is very clear, positive, and truthful. And if I don't know something, I need to own that too. Hey, look, I
Yeah.
don't know. Why do I not know? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Maybe I just never learned it. Maybe because it's lost in time. Maybe because when I go back and I go, who the hell was this guy? And all the scholars are like, look, he's referenced in a lot of texts. We don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. As long as you guys don't know, it's okay for me not to know.
Mm.
Especially if I'm using those tools and I'm using those theories and practices. So it becomes this beautiful living, breathing thing that way. And that's what East Asian medicine has always been. It's evolved to the culture and the country and the time and the community. So I'm not a huge history buff, but when we talk about things as colleagues in the field, I can go, oh, that's a Korean technique. Oh, you use this word and that's a Buddhist word, so you're older than this but not as old as this, right? Or, oh, you did this one weird thing, and that's a more modern, that's a medical type of acupuncture, the way you referred to that. And in our own field, and sometimes publicly to a fault, we'll argue over those little things. and not acknowledge that it's part of this same gigantic and a very the blind man and the elephant kind of story. I'm over here touching
Yeah.
the ear, so I think it's a big flat thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but when you pull back and you see the whole elephant, you're like, that's a big elephant.
Yeah.
And oh my God, this is all within it. And the esoteric stuff, the modern medical stuff, the constant evolution is really just poetic. It's just I've already said I'm ADHD several times. I would have burnt out in a field that didn't have this depth and richness,
Mm.
that ran out of rocks to turn over.
Yeah. Yeah. Sit and make widgets and see how healthy you are at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do just want to loop back to something because I think it's a really important point that you touched upon, but I just want to put the explainer of why behind it.
Okay.
When you said about moving away from terminology around Oriental, because
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I agree with you, but I think if we can just unpack that for people so they understand what you were
So
talking
so
about.
here's where it gets like that was never meant in this definition to refer to people.
Yeah.
However, um because of its stickiness, I won't even say it's bad or good. I won't put any judgment on it. Using the term East Asian seems to be preferred in our field. In a field where there's literally 8 or 9 different master's degrees, basically all call like telling the same job, and at least a handful of doctorates in this country. That all mean we kind of do the same thing, but we haven't unified that, right? It's not like in the States, MD is medical doctor, right? We all boom, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
No, well, I'm a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. Well, I technically do a Japanese style of acupuncture. Okay, well, okay. So, okay, there's a DOAM, Doctor of Acupuncture and Herbal Medicine. There's a DAHM, and it's like it just gets mind-numbingly confusing, but the thing we're all agreeing on is like maybe not Oriental. And I think also part of it was there was a weird degree, an OMD for a little while, which was Oriental Medical Doctor. And it was so funny because the argument against it was we don't want somebody going into somebody's clinic and thinking they're seeing an Asian medical doctor. And like a person of Asian descent who's
Yeah.
also an MD, and it was like, look, I get it. It's the title doesn't fit right. Um, but it wasn't even like the Asian community almost didn't care. It was more of like, look, we're in this time now where we know this isn't right. Let's change it.
Hmm.
None of us really give a shit. Let's just change it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no one's dying on this hill. Just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, that's when we talk about things, and it's the specificity of like the geographical nature of it as well, isn't it? Like
Hmm.
we are talking about a region,
Yeah.
and it is, the region is Asia, and it is the east of Asia.
Yeah. Yeah. And even
It's
to differentiate from Ayurveda and techniques from India,
exactly, yeah.
and it gets, if we want to dive in deeper, yes, there's traditional Korean Oriental, medicine, I shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about the Oriental word, and I'm
We're just
accidentally
going to say it
slipping
all
it
the
in
time now.
there. Yeah, yeah, and it's funny. I don't think my school is going to update my master's degree and send me a new piece of paper, but they've even changed the name of the school. You
Mhm.
know, um, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think I
Agreed,
want
yeah.
another piece of paper either.
Yes, there's enough. We're good
It's
here.
enough.
But I think it was important just to touch on, because again, like you say, there is the build on that then, which is people may not be familiar with talking about people in that way and having moving away from that language as well,
Hmm.
because again, it's quite um almost like a Western way of referring to East Asian people, like a
Hmm.
label and a moniker, and it's not something that is widely felt fondly about, let's put it that way.
Well, it's even funny where we used to use that term for rugs, right? And
Yeah.
now, no, they're Persian rugs. Okay. You know?
Which is really, it's a different region.
Yeah, it is. It is. So to call them Oriental rugs kind of
Yeah.
didn't fit
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think, yeah, I thank you for letting us loop back to that, because I just want to,
Oh yeah,
for people
definitely.
that were like, oh, why can't you say that anymore? It's, there's, yeah, like you said, there's it's confusing, but also there is a move away to it certainly as well when we're speaking about people, to really think about how is it we are talking about other humans, and if we're referring to people from a specific geographical place, talk about the geographical place that
Hmm.
you are referring to,
Yeah.
rather than a made up term where we group people together. So thanks for the context. Now, I also want to kind of loop back as well a bit, and because the way you were talking about, and I can't remember which point we said this, but um, when someone said to you, "Oh, hang on, so you're coming up to your 50s and your life focus
Yeah,
has
yeah.
shifted," and I liked the kind of the consideration that is in there around, like, and I wrote down a question mark with whole life health. It's like we're
Yeah.
holistically looking at our whole life health in the stages and the needs of us as humans, not just our physical wellness.
And maybe even broader than just this midlife crisis kind of thing. For me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I think globally we're starting to see that, right? I was looking at like, why not go get another doctorate at some point, right? Like maybe there's another field out
You're
there
treating them like
where,
Pokemon now. You're just
well,
going to go.
look, student debt here is ridiculous, so I might as well have all the student debt. Right? You can't, you don't make me pay if I'm in school. Um, now, who knows? They probably wouldn't even give me a loan. That degree doesn't mean anything. Yeah, none of them do.
Yeah.
But within that, I was looking around and I saw this doctorate of lifestyle medicine, and I'm like, ooh, lifestyle. That what does that mean?
Mm.
And I pulled up the school that was giving it and looking at their curriculum, and it was like, tell people to sleep more, tell people to eat the right things, tell people to move their bodies. And I'm like, that seems how sad of a statement is that about humanity, that we've lost our humanness to not know that. And I
Yeah.
think um I think, oh God, now I'm railing against capitalism again. But within that, something happened where in the States we can say, oh, it was Carnegie Mellon or Carnegie that made the schools, and they just were training for factory workers, right? No critical thinking, no. So we slowly, and I can bang Reagan or Thatcher here for that. Wow, I didn't mean to get this political. Um, but Frank Turner's got a great song about her. Anyway, this kind of idea that we're gonna grind until we're old, and then maybe in that last little final bit we'll have a little time for ourselves, and a little time to, if we're able to
Yeah,
travel, a
to
little
nurse our
time to
bodies
actually
while we're.
take a hobby, or rest. And even these concepts where they're like, oh, I take these micro retirements, I'm like, you douchebag. Like, come on, just you should be able to rest. Like,
Yeah.
this is not something that's fundamentally human. And even seeing a degree on that, like, that's almost a capitalistic attempt to
Yeah.
like sell us our humanity back.
Yeah, quite.
And it made me laugh. It made me sad. It seems like, well, how do I frame myself where I live that lifestyle? How do we do things that actually engender humanity? Right? That's what's your sense of community? What are you doing that has meaning? And that is more than the, get divorced, date a girl way too young for you, and buy a sports car. Like, that has no
Yeah.
interest for me, because
Yeah.
it doesn't fundamentally change the dilemma. It's an external looking, yes, this is what everybody wants, but it's not the core of humanity.
Yeah.
That's not getting to the root of the issue. And I think we're starting to see it happen more with younger people. They're like, look, if I'm going to be broke, I might as well be broke and happy.
Quite.
Yeah, and while maybe economists knock that because they don't have, bodies for the workforce. It's like, yeah, I mean, look, if I'm gonna be hungry, I might as well be hungry and doing something I enjoy, or not doing anything that you're telling me to do at the very least. Um, but I do think the eye is turning. I think we're looking at human consciousness, what it means to be truly human. And I think the consciousness affects the body more than we were willing to admit in the very physical realm model.
Yeah.
And when those two things come together, that's where you have that whole being health. I said whole body before, but it is whole being, right? It's all got to be going in the same direction for you to be truly vibrant and truly happy. And there's a shift happening. And I think it's happening quicker and quicker. And I think everything bad that's happening now, um, I had this conversation with a patient the other day, and she was mentioning that somebody mentioned, "Oh, this is the year of the wood snake," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Snake years are always horrible for me. That sounds weird, but they always are." And she goes, "No, this one's the shedding of the skin, and the next year's fire horse, and this is when healing happens. This is when movement happens." And she doesn't know Chinese astrology. It's just
Yeah.
somebody shared that with her, and I go, that makes absolute sense. And I'm sitting in a Zoom call with two people that do astrology, and one of them goes, "Look, charts get real weird around February 20th, right?" Now I'm getting really new agey here. And she goes, I can't find a historical reference to the way these stars are aligning, right? Doesn't mean it didn't happen. It might have happened long before we were here. And she mentioned a whole bunch of stuff that made absolutely no sense to me. And she goes, "But February 20th, around a few days around that, is like this massive shift, but it all looks extremely positive." Right. And who knows, maybe she's wishful thinking, but then after I heard this story about the wood snake, I
Yeah.
go, "Well, when's Chinese New Year?" Or Lunar New Year is probably the better way, more. And February 17th. And for there's been months now, even with my clinic, where I'm like, "Look, I just got to survive until February." And it was like, why?
Yeah.
Because I think something's going to happen in February. I don't know why. Maybe the loan will be paid off. Maybe this will like, I don't know exactly what it is, but I think February's it. And I think
Okay.
it's a global thing. I don't let's not put that in an envelope and call me in February and go, like you said, and
You
everything's
told me
still
on February the
horrible.
20th I
Yeah.
was going to win the lottery. This has not occurred. No,
There was
but
world
hey,
peace.
yeah, come
you
on.
know?
Um, so yeah, and that I think is fascinating actually. And interestingly, as a build on that, I was also talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about how this year they described it as the year of endings, but not
Mhm.
necessarily like final endings were, but to that extent, like getting rid of the things that we
That no
no
longer
longer
serve.
need.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, okay, this is all kind of coming about circle. Um, but for me, just to loop back to your whole kind of the whole being piece,
Yeah, I kind of went on a tangent there.
that's good. I'm here for it. But for me, that's something that I think is really critical if I just put the leadership workplace lens over it, right? Because
Hmm.
you like as exactly as you're saying, there is this shift in people, and especially in younger generations around they're experiencing the world differently, and they don't have the same attachments and experiences that previous generations have had coming into
Hmm.
stuff. So their world is still kind of shiny and new based upon their current experiences. And if we are all leaning in that direction or feeling the pull towards that kind of whole being existence, then like workplaces need to get on board with this, that we need to
Hmm.
start paying attention to if this is what is becoming of vital importance to the people that are coming to work for
Yeah.
us, in them choosing whether or not they want to work for us, because do we work with them in terms of meeting these needs. When we think about like so in the UK at least, a lot of organizations will have employee benefits, and
Hmm.
what is the look of those benefits, because maybe they're not really interested in you know I mean, it's all about electric cars and critical illness cover and stuff like that. But maybe there are other things that we're missing. You know,
we
like,
can't even afford healthcare as business owners.
yeah,
So it's funny, but I do think there was an attempt. Like you'll hear about Google having like, oh look, they've got nap pods and they've got, ping pong tables and things like that. But even then, that was like almost like let me show you that we're doing something, right? Those high producers were still grinding. They're
yeah,
still there more than they were home. They were missing their kids' things. Yeah,
yeah.
events. I think we're going to get to this point, and here in the States, they're like, what happens when all the boomers are gone? That was the bulk majority of the workforce, and I'm like, I think things will get better. Yeah, I'm like, love you, mom and dad, but like, you guys, you know, you guys really did some things that really screwed everybody up after you. And where they're talking about people not being trained for jobs or people not willing to take bad jobs, and it's like, well, why aren't the boomers retiring? Why aren't the boomers passing those on to next generations? And it, it, when they're all gone, there's going to be nobody in the workforce is kind of the cries over here. And I don't, well, maybe those jobs aren't necessary anymore. Maybe we invested in the wrong things. Maybe we invested in non life affirming, non humane, humanity based endeavors. And when that hold gets released a bit, maybe we can start living the way we're supposed to. It doesn't mean we give
Yeah.
up our phone and things like that. It just means we're using it differently. We're not staring at it all day.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I was asked on a panel discussion a couple of weeks ago actually about the role of entry level work and AI, and are we going to
Hmm.
see less job availability for people trying to join the workforce? And I thought, if we can have a system that can automate all the shitty jobs that no one really enjoys doing, why have we not done that already? Like,
Yeah.
why are we not thinking about that and then leave the creative, like, human connection roles to the humans who have
Yeah.
the capacities and the capabilities to engage with each other and with abstract concepts and critical thinking and creative thinking? And why would we not get rid of rubbish?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even here, they were saying, oh, if we raise the minimum wage, we're going to replace everything with computers. And then it's like, no, we didn't. And if you walk into a fast food restaurant, you're ordering at a kiosk. What happened to all of them? You said, oh, our Walmarts, right? Oh, no cashiers. It's just a bunch of computers in front of you and one person that can run all of that, and you're paying them next to nothing,
Mhm.
right? So you went under this, oh my God, what are humans going to do for work rather than like, what are humans going to do that's meaningful?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And like, what I dream of the day one day when we can actually, none of us need to work to achieve things, like, and that all gets taken care of and everyone's needs get met because other systems and
Yeah.
machinery is doing all the things that need to be done, and humans can just be leisurely with each other.
Yeah, I think that certainly that's a level of idealism that I want, that like I'm romanticizing that too. It's just so funny to see the people that are kind of at the forefront of that and how they're saying that's possible, but they're clearly staking their claim and digging in and trying to make as much money as they can on it.
I mean,
S-
yeah, quite.
yeah, but it's only a handful of people, and yeah, I'll finish that statement off air.
Well, it's interesting is that this is a kind of a Zach Polanski analogy that he used actually, that really struck a chord with me around billionaires. And he said, if you go back, I have to apologize if you can hear my cat in the background. She's joining
That
in.
I love that.
I mean, I'm not a fan, but hey. So yeah, he said if you rewind a million, I think it's a million minutes, you end up back in
Hmm.
2024. And if you rewind a billion minutes, you're in the Roman Empire. And it's like, that's what we're talking about here. And I just thought, yeah, there you go. Let's make it applicable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you always have to think, how much does anybody really need, right? You know, they use the analogy of a trickle down economics, and I guess I'm mentioning Reagan again. Um, and they said once the cup's full, it overflows. Well, the cup just keeps getting bigger. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I didn't realize I was going to be this political. I'm certainly not an economist.
Well, that's
Neither was
okay. You've not
Marx.
claimed to be an economist, so it's cool.
Marx was a philosopher who just happened to get a lot of economics right.
Now, you've already mentioned as well about your own podcast. So tell us a bit
Yeah.
about that, please.
So Irreverent Health was one of those things, and it's funny, I often joke, like, I didn't want to make sourdough, my wife did during COVID. Like it was either you make sourdough or you start a podcast. Matt Hampton and I met uh in a business group, right? We both kind of fell in with the owner who invited us in, and we showed up within one or two meetings of each other. And both of us were sitting in the back of the room, and there's some big names in that room, and me and him are like, dude, I'm not supposed to be here. Both of us were like, I'm not supposed to be here. No, no, these guys are heavy hitters. And we kind of hit it off. And then he found out, what I did for a living. And, on top of the acupuncture, cryotherapy, red light sauna, those kind of things were in my office. And he's kind of like a, self-described health nut. So we started having these conversations, and the owner's kind of like right hand person came over and heard us having these conversations. She's like, you should record this. And people started asking us questions at the end of these meetings because we were often in the back talking about this kind of stuff. COVID hit, and we were all kind of sitting around. And, after you get through your whole Netflix list and everything, you got nothing to do. And Matt and I just started recording episodes. We did 50 before we actually released them. And it just didn't feel right. Like we tinkering with what we're talking about, how we're talking about. And then yeah, I mean, go back and listen to them. I guess they're good. Uh but what a glowing endorsement, right? But
I think I'm all right.
when we started having guests, it started to show our curiosity, and we really dug into that, and we really loved it. So now, over 200 episodes later, the majority of them are with guests and experts and weird out there things, and it's just to talk about what is health, and we're very loose with that, because like we're talking here, it's your environment, it's your interactions with other people, it's your spirituality, it's your belief system. And we'll one day we'll talk to somebody who has just published this huge study on psilocybin and extending lifespan, and then the next day we're talking about shamanism, and somebody that's had a near death experience. And it is such a fun ride for Matt and I, that we're starting to realize that, look, if we could do this all the time, we would be in front of a camera all day talking to somebody.
Yeah,
um
that resonates
and
really hard.
yeah, yeah, why? Because these are the only conversations that seem to matter, right? Like, look, I'll have the small talk. I don't like doing it. And it seems like our tribe, Katie, and I'm including you in this.
Thank you.
That's what we want. We're like, we like, well, look, I have this technology. I can reach out and talk to somebody across the globe who's really into this. And they're so into it, they want to get on a phone call and dedicate time to actually do it. So why are we doing anything else? Yeah, and we've loved it. And our 200th episode, we actually had our third partner who doesn't, he's been on the show a bunch, but doesn't normally record with us, interview us. And
Ooh, exciting.
to like ask like what do we love about it, what was our favorite episodes, who rubbed you the wrong way, those kind of things. And like Matt had to talk me down a couple of times because my face gets me into a lot of trouble. And when you record on Zoom and somebody's like, why'd you just roll your eyes? I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm gonna have a fight that you're not prepared for, and you're gonna think you're right, and I have evidence, but like, why am I doing this? And Matt called me after that particular episode, and he's like, "Dude, we've done this 200 times. You've gotten into it with 3 people. Think about that percentage." Yeah, that's like 1.5% of the episodes you've done. You didn't like the person. But think about that other 98.5%
Yeah.
where you've had this amazing experience. Somebody's taught you something, you shared something with somebody, and yeah, that humanity right there, right? I feel that in my heart, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that resonates really a lot with me. Yeah. There is something magical about the relationships and the connections that we can make with other humans, regardless of where they are, who they are. There's just
Yeah.
something, just that pebble that drops and the ripple that goes, and you don't know what it's going to change somewhere down the line, but it will change something for someone.
Well, that ripple, it's so funny now when I see past guests on each other's podcasts now. And you're like, oh my God, I love both of them, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, good, I'm glad they connected. And we do that when people are on our show. It's like I normally joke like, hey, our Rolodex is open. If we get a young guest, they don't know what a Rolodex is, but
Yeah.
it's like, look over the episodes. Anybody you want an introduction to, because we tend to attract those people that want to get out there and talk and interact with other like-minded people, and you learn so much. You learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about a new topic, and
Yeah.
the number of times I say this, wow, that sounds like East Asian medicine to me. Right? Why? Because the theories are all intertwined, and they are not just associated with East Asian medicine. They're associated with music and art and martial arts, and the theories are universal in Asia, and they're
Mm.
universal here too, even when we're not acknowledging them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think you said this at the front, didn't you? Like we may be packaging things differently or
Mhm.
thinking about things differently, but
It's a different terminology. I saw this one video that sent me down a rabbit hole about like, oh God, what the secret, right? And manifestation and all this stuff. And one guy's like, so here's the reason why you see a bunch of people not wealthy and living their dream life doing it. And he was talking about it from a quantum physics level. And he mentioned some other books. And one of them was pretty esoteric, but it was a Western esoteric book. So picked it up and I started reading it. And I'm like, this dude's talking about meditation. Like, first 30 pages are all like, this is just basic meditation. If you've done any kind of meditation, these principles. But it was formatted in this kind of like almost a cult, like I'm giving you some secret. And I'm like,
mm.
no, that's all focus. No, that is loving kindness. No, that is, you know, these are just classical meditation. Yeah, okay, the guy wrote the book in the 40s. Great. He stumbled
Yeah.
on what everyone else who meditates stumbled on, you
Yeah.
know?
Amazing, amazing. Tom Ingegno. Now, if people are listening to this and they would like to be getting in touch with you and learn
Yeah.
more about you and find your podcast, things like that, where can
Yeah.
they connect with you?
Okay, so I'll give you kind of like the hub, which is still my clinic, charmcityintegrative.com. Certainly there's an about me page on there. But that'll tell you kind of about my clinic, what I do. Outside of the clinic, I love lecturing. I love being podcast guest. I've even helped people in a consulting role open up clinics like mine, or people that have an idea and they want to incorporate new equipment. I'm trying to do more of that because that's just so much fun to see something come to life. And the podcast is irreverenthealth.com. Matt and I really just try to have fun conversations with interesting people.
Awesome stuff. And are you on all the socials?
Yes. To my chagrin, yes, we're on everything. If you message me on there, I will get back to you. I may not be active. I may not be liking posts or consuming, but I am present there.
There is presence. There is presence. Okay, cool. And is there anything that you came to say that you haven't had an opportunity to say?
I feel like we kind of went far and wide. To kind of wrap it all up is always difficult, especially when it goes that all over the place. I do believe I'm coming up to 7 years of never missing a day of meditation, and the
Nice.
meditation has changed since I started, which was back in 1994. So it took that long for me to get to 7 years of consistently doing it. But if you want to have impact across your life in so many different uh, aspects, daily meditation is essential. And it took me 20 years of trying to get to a daily practice, but don't give up. Consistency is better than duration or intensity or anything. So do a little bit every day, and you'll see results there.
Excellent. Thank you. So meditation is now going on everybody's list of things
They,
to do.
they it should. The number of people that had tried to convince me to do it daily, between me starting to do it and then having a consistent practice, uh very large number. I don't know, I'd have to go through my Rolodex.
Yeah. Nice call. So Dr. Tom Ingegno, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation of the Speaking of Inclusion podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Katie. This was so much fun. Loved talking with you.